Hi everybody, it's Whitney from All the Shelves. I wanted to do a quick Friday Reads video because I started a whole bunch of new things and I think I'm going to be able to finish some of them over the weekend. First up on the agenda, I need to finish this book for school. It's called The Irony of American History by Reinhold Niebuhr. This comes with a little blurb that says one of my favorite philosophers by President Barack Obama. And because of his endorsement, this book has experienced a kind of resurgence. We have been talking about this book and this philosopher a lot more lately, and the University of Chicago Press released this new version with an introduction by Andrew, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Bacevich, let's say, B-A-C-E-V-I-C-H, and I'll leave a link down below to this book. And the introduction is actually really good, so I would recommend getting this version of this book rather than the kind of old prints. This was a book that he wrote in the 1950s. Niebuhr was a philosopher and a theologian who was interested in American culture and particularly in American foreign policy. So far this book is mostly about the similarities between communism and democracy, or American democracy, and that was obviously a huge topic in the 1950s when he was publishing this, but I think this book continues to be extremely influential because it's talking about how American ideology, this idea of the American dream and personal freedom, is always at conflict with a country that seeks to spread that personal freedom throughout the world and to become a global power, but also with global responsibilities. So they can't just morally sit back and watch atrocity happen, but when they go and they interfere and they try to spread their version of American democracy, then that obviously is going to be at conflict with an idea of personal freedom. And Niebuhr is finding similarities between communism and this American idealism. He's also being very careful to delineate the two. He's staunchly anti-communist, which I think is very interesting. What I'm appreciating about the book so far, and I don't fully have a firm grasp on it yet, which I think is obvious from my review here, but what I'm really appreciating is the nuance in his arguments, the fact that he doesn't feel like he has to represent a political right or left or progressivism or conservatism or whatever, that his ideas appear to be contradictory according to a kind of popularization of political theory, but they are theoretically consistent. So it's very interesting reading, and I'll be able to finish this one up today. I'm about halfway through so far. The next book that I'm reading for school is on my Kindle. I was at the dentist's office this morning and I didn't have any reading material with me and I had a bit of a wait, so I started Fic by Anne Jamieson, and it's a book about fan fiction that has become very popular and very influential in a very short amount of time. Now I think it's important that I disclose that I actually know Anne Jamieson and love Anne Jamieson, and so maybe I'm not going to have a completely fair reading of this book, but I feel like I can be fairly objective, and even within the first 20 pages or so, it's brilliant. A brilliant take on a genre that is exploding, and so far she's talking a lot about how fan fiction fits into the publishing world and how there's been a history of people responding to more canonical works. So I'm just barely into it. I can't really speak on it yet, but I'm really excited to do a full review of that one, not only because I know Anne, but because the book is just like fascinating even so far. And then I'm reading two books for fun right now that I'll be switching on and off over the weekend. The first is The Witches, Salem 1692 by Stacy Schiff. I've been wanting to read this forever, and our library has something called Lucky Day where they have like a number of copies that only circulate for a week and you can't renew them. So I found this on the Lucky Day cart and I immediately picked it up, realizing that I also was reading a lot of other things at the time, so I might not get through this in one go. I might have to return it and either finally break down and buy it. I'm such a penny pincher, it's really hard for me to buy books, especially when they're hardcover, but Costco has it, so the penny pincher's dream. Anyway, I might have to do that, but if I'm going to try and get as far as I can over the weekend with that one. I'm very early on in this one too, but it's just the story of the Salem witch trials, and since I saw the Crucible in New York, I realized that my knowledge of the Salem witch trials comes from Arthur Miller. It doesn't come from history. And so it's really interesting so far to see which characters are recurring and which parts are true. I guess I just took it for granted that, oh yeah, Salem witch trials started because Abigail loved John Proctor or whatever. Like, I don't think that that's a part of it. So I'm already having a really good time comparing this to what I know of the play. So since that's a lot of nonfiction, I am also cutting it with some fiction. I'm reading Boy Snow Bird by Helen Oyeyemi. I've heard so much about this. A lot of people on BookTube just love this author, and this will be the first thing I've read from her. I'm about 50 pages in, and already it's just like a real page turner. I know that it's based on the Snow White fairy tale. I'm not huge into fairy tales like I know a lot of you are, but I'm really liking the kind of updated feel of it. It's set in the 1950s in a more real-world setting, and for some reason that really helps me connect and understand the characters a little bit more. So I have really high hopes for Boy Snow Bird. It's going really well so far. So those are the 4 books that I am working on this weekend. Hopefully I will be able to get a lot of reading done. It's Mother's Day, I have a graduation, but I am really in need of some quiet reading time, and it's, you can probably tell by the lighting, quite rainy and stormy out there, which makes for the best reading weather. So I'm gonna go and get on that, start reading, and I'll see you guys later.